Good evening, everyone. I'm Frank Novak, and this is the candidate edition of Point of Reference. Tonight, we give you a brief introduction to each candidate running for office in Haverhill's 2025 elections, incumbents as well as newcomers, in an effort to get you to know them a little better, to help you decide who to vote for on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th. We are very proud most of the candidates took us up on our invitation. 29 out of 31 agreed to participate over a 3-day period. For those that found it difficult to attend, we even provided remote access too. For those that decided not to partake, we wish them well. This year, we also solicited questions from you, the viewers, and we used them in an effort to make you part of the process as well. While HC Media and Haverhill Community Television are unable to run events such as these candidate interviews and 1-minute messages themselves, I am very pleased that they've allowed me to do my own independent program, lending their technical talent and expertise as support in producing a very professional product that could be held up as an example for other communities to follow. In Ward 5, interviews were conducted with 2 candidates running unopposed, Sean Toohey for City Council and Jill Story for School Committee. Sean Toohey is with us right now. He's running for re-election as City Councilor for Ward 5. Welcome to the program, Sean.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Longtime councilor, former school committeeman as well, if I recall.
Yes.
Correctly.
Yes.
And you are running for re-election in Ward 5. Can you tell us, are there any particular considerations that people in Ward 5 have a concern over that other members of the community just may not be aware of?
I think the only thing that pops into my head really is which I'm in favor of course, is preserving open space. Open space, development, housing. Smart growth is important. I hear that a lot as I not only as a retailer downtown, but also as I campaign and talk to constituents throughout the ward for sure.
When we had run a commercial prior to this program inviting the community to go ahead and give us a call and give us your questions that we'll be able to put forth to candidates. And one of the questions that we got, because we wanted them to be participating in this program as well if they could, and one of the questions they gave, and they sent a picture too, I don't have the picture to show you, but was about Crystal Lake, because the Crystal Lake apparently is extremely, extremely low. And they asked about what happened to the 3 wells that were supposed to have been dug from Crystal Lake that were supposed to be servicing the community perhaps in that area?
I'm not familiar with what transpired, but for those individuals, Bob Ward would be a great asset to answer those questions. To my knowledge, I know we draw from Crystal Lake. It's lower. Obviously, we've had a drought as well, as you're aware of.
Yeah.
So Mother Nature today responded, thhank goodness. But as far as the wells and what the status is of that, I'm unsure about that. But the individual for those who are watching and ask the question, certainly reach out to Bob Ward. He's fantastic.
He's the key point.
He's the guy.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you tell me, Sean? We've increased the taxes, largest tax increase in the history of the city of Haverhill.
I hear it all the time.
Okay, and what's the feedback you get?
Obviously, no one's really happy about that for sure. But at the end of the day, we have to have, there was a transition from at the time when the initial increase was. I wasn't happy about it. I always address this at tax classification in November, which I've always advocated for the best rate for the residential side. I've received pushback on that, but I hear that a lot. Seniors having an issue, fixed income, it's never easy. At the same time, we're still relatively affordable. My goal is to keep us affordable. I think we're number 2 in Essex County relative to taxes. But to answering your question, as far as what's the feedback is they're concerned about it, but they understand. If you articulate what it is, the contracts, public safety, education, infrastructure that has fell in disrepair. If it makes sense, if you articulate the reasons why, and it's a valid reason, they don't like it, they don't love it, but at the same time they understand. So I think it's as a councilor and my colleagues, it's a balance. But at the same time, we're going to keep an eye on it during budget. But there were a lot of good things in the last couple of budgets, of course. But for me, as a fiscal conservative, those things bother me. I will say, the initial phase, I did have a conversation with the mayor, and I did ask to pull back $800,000. Not that I was on the school committee for 14 years, and the reason why I bring this up is, full disclosure, the increase was high for me. But out of respect and for her and her being her first budget, I sat down with her and I said, well, is there any way that we could hold back and give money back towards the taxpayers? And she was at a situation that was very difficult. So her, along with Angel, articulated what the reasons were. But my bigger concern was the ESSER funds that were used, the one-time monies on the school department for ongoing expenses, which I thought was a bad idea. And I'm still waiting for an answer relative to the percentage of the monies for that. But I hope I answered the question. It's a long answer to a short question, but
It's okay.
it's concerning to me. But we'll keep an eye on it. We're just not going to. I think my colleagues understand the dynamics with inflation and everything else. But we'll keep an eye on it. We're going to do our very best to make sure that we keep Haverhill affordable, and that's a primary goal for me.
Sometimes I get this question asked, and I don't have an absolute answer for it. Perhaps you could help me, and that is that people knew that when we've got a large tax increase in the city of Haverhill, and that's partly due to the override, okay, for the Constantino school, as I understand it. There was money set aside from the previous administration, Ferentini administration, set aside to apply to the Constantino school that would not have necessitated an override. But people decided against that, and they decided to go ahead and not utilize those monies, but go for the override. Can you give me an indication what has happened to the other monies that were not utilized for the Constantino school? And I ask that question because we're looking over our shoulder at John Greenleaf Whittier School on Concord Street, which is going to need to be replaced at some point in the very, very near future.
Yeah, that's as far as where, it's the mayor's budget, of course. And the Mayor Barrett's doing the best that she can based on the resources. But in the initial, myself and Councilor Bevilacqua, I didn't like the idea of the timing of that going on the ballot. I believe it was in June, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a single vote.
Single
issue thing. It was a referendum type of vote.
Yeah, and I think from memory, I think he and we wanted to push it in the general election versus
Right.
having it that, and really get a true representation on what the overall community wanted. And we, plus the cost of, I think it was $90,000 to have it. I thought it was unnecessary. It was a short time, wait a couple months, see what the rest of the community is. But we're going to get a great school. I'm on that building committee. It's I think the total cost $160 million. I think the MSBA is picking up about 68 million of that. I think the monies that were utilized is to move Haverhill forward. You had firefighters where the staffing issues were a big concern.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of good that has come out of this budget, but everyone's doing the best that they can what we have.
Let me ask you this. With your history in government, and I'm going to ask this question relative to elections, you said former Councilor Bevilacqua wanted to have that question on the Constantino school be part of the general election ballot.
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk political strategy here for a second. Do you think that people that wanted to have that override deliberately decided to have a single vote referendum so that it wouldn't be part of the general ballot election? Because if it was part of that general ballot, do you think it would have passed?
I still, I think the need is there. I think it probably would have passed, but to go answer your question, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller turnout. It's easier, as you know, politically to control, to push out X amount of voters in a certain period of time. Because I have to be honest with you, I'm in retail, as you know, and I would have people come in and say, and I would ask them, "Hey, you don't forget to vote today." Then what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So it was that's kind of where my metrics come from. I listen to, whether it's my customers or the people in my ward or across the city. And in that time frame, that's what I heard that feedback a lot. What are you talking about? So, I mean, it's a good strategy. It obviously it worked, but it's not to say it wouldn't have passed in the general either.
Okay, that's fair enough. I want to ask you this. When we take the questions, as I said, from the public, some of the public had submitted their questions as well. And one of the questions, since you happen to live out in the Crystal Lake area, Crystal Road area, a question we got was, what do you plan to do to help those people that are involved in agriculture, specifically farmers?
Well, as a full disclosure, I think it's really for me what I do now is really promote awareness, and I've been a donator of, I think, the Haverhill's Farmers Market is one entity. A gentleman by the name of Jeff Grassi, who lives in my ward up on West Lowell, good guy, does a lot of work over there. I think it's Creative Haverhill, and I've been more than happy to donate money to advertise with them because of their they have such a great outcoming and support in the community, and they're over in Bradford now, they were on Saturdays. So I think that the best thing I can do as one person is to certainly advocate and promote awareness through whatever means necessary. Buying local, staying local. I mean, it's just a recipe for success.
And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of it is organic, too.
It's organic, and I get those wonderful treats at the end, so they're delicious.
Fair enough. That's good. Thanks very much, Sean, for being here.
My pleasure.
We wish you the best of luck in your numbers coming up in the election. And you'll since this is nobody else on the other side,
so
that must be a testimony to your performance. Am I right?
Know. Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
That's
Thank
good.
you, Frank.
We wish you the best of luck on your numbers as they come in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Ward 5 School Committee candidate for re-election is Jill Story, Dr. Jill Story. Welcome to the program, Jill.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been a school committee person before. Can you tell me what things do you think that you are happy with what's been accomplished so far, and what else do you think needs to be done?
Sure. So I think something that I had pushed for when I was running for election 2 years ago was to have more transparency and more communication. And I think I've definitely tried to do that in terms of superintendent evaluation and making sure that we're following the guidelines for how we're doing that, and working with the superintendent to make sure that her goals are focused on what the schools are looking to do in terms of their improvement. Also making sure that we're negotiating competitive contracts and making that process as transparent as possible. And so keeping the community informed of how those things are going. I think there's also been a real emphasis on literacy in the schools. And the school committee has definitely been very supportive of prioritizing that in the budget and making sure that students in the younger grades are gaining the reading and writing skills necessary to then pursue more advanced coursework as they move through the grades.
You say in some of your campaign literature, you say, additionally, we're seeing academic learning gaps and an uptick in mental health and behavioral concerns due to social isolation for the past few years and an increase in social media use. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a pretty pointed analysis.
I think coming out of the pandemic, and we're now a few years out, we're going to see the ramifications of not only that learning loss, which I think a lot of districts and Haverhill is on its way to trying to close some of those learning gaps that had resulted from the pandemic, but also the ramifications. So, I'm a middle school principal, and so I have students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So our current 6th graders, I believe, were in 1st grade when kindergarten and 1st grade when they were essentially learning remotely. And I think, we're seeing even years later delays and things like just being able to communicate and working with peers. And so I think, we're making progress certainly, but
is that because of conditioning that they incurred during that time? Because they say your youngest years are the most formative years.
Yes. So I think a lot of teaching of behaviors and how to behave in a classroom and how to learn happens in those early years. And then you build on those as you go. And so there's a need to kind of make up for that. And so we're certainly seeing all of that. I think the social media use is another thing. So we put all the kids online during COVID. And now there's a real push at the state level, and I think we're seeing that in Haverhill as well, to actually limit some of the technology use. So there's a balance between using technology, because a lot of the curriculum now requires technology, but also having students have the self-control and the discipline to be able to put the cell phone away or close the computer and actually engage in a conversation or a debate or a class discussion, or even just like pen and paper and write out tasks. And there's a lot of value in those skills as well. I think with AI now, that's a new challenge for schools and for teachers and students, as far as how do we use AI to sort of as a tool for learning, but not as a crutch. And we want to make sure that kids, again, have foundational skills before we're introducing them to some of these things that they really need to be able to be critical thinkers and writers and read before they're using like AI to help support them with an assignment.
You know, you have a very interesting combination and dynamic, given the fact that you are, when you're on the school committee, you're dealing largely with policy and implementation of the policy, but you are also in the field. So you see firsthand what's happening, sometimes more so, and experience that more acutely than somebody who's, let's say, a layperson or not in education. I'm going to ask you this question. When all states have to take their orders from the Department of Education, which is in Boston. You have the Massachusetts Department of Education. You've got 351 cities and towns. And I'm going to ask you directly, when sometimes people are behind the desks, they're in the offices, they're divorced from what's actually going on in the classroom largely, are there some things that you are able to suggest that you would like to see implemented that you may be inhibited from doing so because the Department of Education in Boston won't automatically go along with it?
I mean, I don't feel that really in my roles as far as DESE. I think as a classroom teacher, sometimes I felt like that because it was impacting my actual instruction in the classroom. As a building leader, DESE, there's a lot of kind of things that they hand down that you have to do, maybe for compliance. But DESE also is supportive of sort of what is happening. And I think we're lucky in Massachusetts where a lot of the policies are research driven. And so it's not just arbitrary. There's like real data behind why there are decisions or why we're doing things. So one of the things that's a focus in a lot of schools now is it's called MTSS. And I know Haverhill is doing that, and the district I work in is as well, which are multi-tiered systems of support. And so DESE actually provides grants in order to be able to help districts roll out these multi-tiered systems, which are interventions for students who may be struggling academically, social, emotional. So students who may need additional counseling or behavioral support. And so having the training for building leaders and then teachers, and then also providing that additional funding in the form of grants for schools to be able to implement these, I think is very beneficial. Another example of something that I know Haverhill has done in my own district is MyCap, which is my career and academic planning. That's another place where DESE has provided grant money to be able to do that. So I think I see it more as a benefit in terms of, again, like supporting whatever policies, driving policies, but also supporting what we know is best for students and providing some of that additional funding as well.
Is it true that when people have charter schools, in charter schools, they are not necessarily required to follow the strict regiment of a regular school? Consequently, are there any things that happen in a charter school that that perhaps are more creative, that have rendered a very positive result that can then subsequently be absorbed into the other more mainstream schools?
I mean, I think it varies. It depends. I think in Haverhill, Silver Hill had been a charter school, Horace Mann charter school, so teachers were still part of the teachers union, but the school itself had some autonomy in order to how it was implementing and running things. Some of the benefits we saw there were a consistent K-5 model. I know the years before that, there was a lot of shifting of kindergarten at one school and then first grade at a different school. And so I think having kids in the same building from K-5 provides some stability and also builds that sense of community. Class sizes were capped, which was also beneficial. I truly believe that there's a happy medium between having a class that's not too large or not too small in terms of being able to have students interacting with each other and learning from each other, but also the teacher being able to provide more targeted support to students. We had free kindergarten at Silver Hill there before. I think Haverhill had free kindergarten. So there were a lot of benefits there. But I think one of the downsides can be when charter schools are taking away money and maybe not as coordinated as far as what the efforts are with the rest of the district. So I think it depends. But I do think you can see maybe more innovation sometimes there because they're free from some of the constraints that the more traditional public schools are bound by.
Jesse, we've got about 30 seconds left. Just wanted to ask you, you talk about initiatives and policies that promote excellence and equity. Equity, meaning from the standpoint of you're suggesting that all students are not getting the same thing, or?
I think if you look at our data, you'll see that we have some work to do with certain subgroups, some demographic subgroups. So more of our high needs students, low income students, MLL, multi-language learner students, students with disabilities. So I would say we just want to make sure that we're providing access, the same level of access to the curriculum as our more dominant groups, our neurotypical white middle class students.
Very good. Okay. Dr. Jill Story, thank you very much for being here. Running as a school committee person in Ward 5.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We hope that these interviews have been a point of reference for you in the upcoming elections. And until next time, my name is Frank Novak, and thanks very much for watching. And remember to vote Tuesday, November 4th, because if you don't vote, then you won't count, and everyone should count.